Now this is the Rockingham gate to my home. It's west of the house. We actually used it as an exit. And it was on this street, Rockingham, that Alan Park drove up that night of the 12th. And Alan Park was pretty consistent in his testimony, and as well as what he told the police in the first interview that he did throughout the trial. And Marcia Clark was almost as consistent with her misrepresentation of this person's testimony. And it seems strange to me that the press, or many of the pundits around the country, chose to go with Marcia's misrepresentations instead of Alan Park's actual testimony. One thing Alan said was when he drove up this street, he didn't notice any cars on Rockingham, and he did not notice a Bronco. He didn't notice it when he drove up. He didn't notice it at one point when he drove down the middle of the street. Curiously, not along the curb when he wanted to look through this gate to see if he can see anyone in my house. I submit that he came back in the middle of the street because the Bronco would have blocked him riding along the curb. But he also, more importantly, stated that he didn't notice this Bronco when he drove out of the Rockingham gate at a time when I think everybody agreed that the Bronco was there. I find very interesting that if this Bronco was parked askew, as the police time and time again stated. Now you look at this parking job. I mean, you'd have to be, I mean, with the parking police to say that this is a bad parking job. This is a truck, and I submit it'd be pretty difficult to drive up and park a car much better than this parking job. A couple of other points about this Bronco is that a lot of talk about the mixed blood stains that were on the console. You realize there was only 0.7 of one drop of blood on that console. I can literally sneeze in my hand, rub it around that console, and you would probably have more DNA. Another incident that came about because of the Bronco, and I found it very indicative of everything that happened in this case and how members of the media and pundits around this country were so quick to jump on any negative, anything that may have made me look more guilty. Was this body bag, this plastic bag, and this shovel that they found in the back of my Bronco. Now, they investigated this case for 7 months, 7 or 8 months before we got to trial. They said it was an exhaustive investigation. Yet, that Friday, they showed the jury, they sprang in front of the jury and the nation, this plastic bag, which they tried to imply could have been used as a body bag, and this shovel that was in the back of my car. And of course, the media that weekend just went wild with it, and I would assume most of the people around the country who thought I was guilty say, see, what did I tell you? Well, over the weekend, they discovered that this plastic bag came with every Bronco. It was standard equipment. It came, it had something to do with the spare tire, and of course the shovel was not a shovel that you would use to dig holes. It was a mucking shovel that you would use to pick up stuff. In my case, we call it a pooper scooper, and I actually had it in the back of my car because I was going over to Nicole's house. She was having some trouble with the neighbor to the north of her because the dogs were, you know, doing their due around there, and this disgruntled ex-husband was going over there picking up the dog due for her. Let's go back in and some other interesting things that I can point out to you out here. Some of it has to do with this driveway. Before I show you some blood drops that were found on the property, let's talk a little about some of the evidence and things that came out in court. One, that you cannot age blood drops. You can't really tell when they were deposited. For instance, 2 blood drops were found here side by side, and you really couldn't tell when, if they were deposited at the same time or not. One thing is curious to me, that these were side by side, which would indicate someone was bleeding from 2 sides of their body, I guess. As we go down the driveway, we have cards where they found various blood drops. Here's one here, and then there's other cards going towards the front of the house. One thing that really jumps out at you is that none of these blood drops go in this direction to the side of the garage where Mark Furman allegedly found the bloody glove. Some other points I should make about the blood. All the blood drops going along the side of Nicole's house towards her alley, the blood drops that are on this driveway going in various directions to or from my front door, the blood-splattered Bronco, my blood-splattered home. All of this blood constitutes less than 15 drops of blood. Less than 15 drops. Now, when you talk about the estimated 1.5 cc's of blood that was missing from the blood vial, that would constitute something like 30 drops of blood. And when you talk about that blood vial, Philip Van Adder, an